What's up YouTube? Welcome to Hannah Handles, and school has begun, which means I want to share with you guys 5 tips on how to take better notes. As a pre-med student myself, I'm currently taking prerequisites, so I know how important it is to take good notes while you take these courses so that you can use these notes for your MCAT, right? So these notes will apply to most courses. I guess the way I would take notes for a math course might be different from a chem course versus a bio course, but generally these note-taking tips will help you in most courses. So let's begin. The first tip is to preview lecture notes before class. If your teacher or professor uploads lecture notes, this is an extremely useful tip because it's going to help frame your focus for the next tip, which is actually reading the textbook. And when I say reading over your lecture notes, I basically mean skimming. You might not understand 90% of it, but that's really okay. The whole point of tip number 1 is to just gain exposure to material, which will help you gain momentum for step number 2. The second tip is to read the textbook before class, and notice how I'm saying before. Read the chapters that pertain to the lecture notes that your teacher or professor includes in the class syllabus or class schedule. I know that most students skip this step, but I guarantee you that this will help you absorb information better for the reason that when you read the textbook, you're further exposing yourself to material that you will be hearing the day of lecture when you attend class. And as a psych major, I can attest to this. Think of your brain as a neural network that is a neural webbing. The more you expose yourself to information in different ways, the stronger that webbing or that network becomes, allowing you to remember and retain information even better. The point of this tip is not to memorize everything in the chapter or to understand everything. The whole purpose of this tip is just to make sure that your brain is ready for lecture day and for exposing yourself to material. You should also note that some professors treat class differently. Some professors rely heavily on the textbook, and a lot of the material in the textbook will be on the test, while some professors use the textbook on the side so the material won't be on the test. So you want to make sure you ask your professor what type of material you will be tested on. And I can guarantee you that just by doing tips number 1 and number 2, you will have a 1-up above, I would say, 90% of your whole class. Tip number 3 is to actively take notes during your lecture or your class. Either, write it on your laptop or write it on your lecture notes, like print them out and go ahead and write on them. This is very important because this is the 3rd time that you're being exposed to the same material. The first time was when you went over the lecture notes. This is before class even begins. The second time is when you read your textbook, also before class. And now the 3rd time is by listening to what your professor is saying in class. Every time you reread or rehear information, the same information again, that neural webbing, that neural network is getting stronger and stronger so that you can retain information quicker and quicker. Tip number 4 is reorganizing your lecture notes. That means that day after class or the day following, you want to be looking at your lecture notes and cross-referencing them from lecture as well as your textbook. And this is where you should be highlighting concepts, linking ideas together and see where it fits. And this step should take the longest. It might mean redrawing diagrams and trying to re-explain them to yourself. And although this is the longest step, I promise you it will be the most worthwhile. I've spent sometimes 7 to 8 hours just trying to reorganize my lecture notes and relabel things, and afterwards I realized I don't need a cram for my test just because I've spent so long doing that I now understand and have memorized this information without even intentionally going out of my way to do so. And the 5th tip is to ask questions. And what does it mean to ask questions? Just ask yourself why. At this point in time, after steps 1 through 4, you should have the most refined questions at this point. This is where you've understood most of the material, but now you're going even more deeper into concepts. And when you ask yourself why and you don't know why, you should seek the answer. And don't be too quick to go to your professor to ask for help, because this is where the true work begins. Where you really begin to understand information is when you work hard to find the answer yourself before even asking anyone. Those were my 5 tips on how to take better notes. And just before I end this video, I want you guys to remember everyone processes information differently, people take notes differently, everyone is a different person, and it's important to remember that as you study, you begin to see what is best fit for you. I've already graduated high school and got my bachelor's at UCLA, and now I'm in a community college taking prereqs to apply to med school. But to be honest, it wasn't even until this year, while I was in community college, that I learned how best to study for myself. So as you guys continue to take classes, be open to seeing different techniques to try for what might be best for you. Thank you so much for watching my video. Good luck on your tests. Study hard and play hard. And please comment, like, subscribe, and see you later.